great church. Now it takes a lot of imagination, there's not a lot left here today. But this church would have been like the Great Cathedral. So I don't know if you visited any of the cathedrals, but that's the kind of building that we would have had here. And it took a long time to build. It was about 130 to 140 years before the church was complete. So at this time in history, that's probably about 5 generations. Now it was built of the finest stone that the monks got from their own quarry up on the hills close by. And they also had the finest craftsmen help them construct the church. So these would have been the stonemasons, the carpenters, and of course many labourers as well. Now when they finished the church, they didn't stop there. As you might expect, they also did a lot of alterations and extensions. So one of the things that they did was build a link building. So that building we were in a few moments ago, that became linked to the church by a building known as the gallery. And then over here, in this side of the church, was a grand hall, a grand entrance. And they built that so that they could welcome all of these pilgrims into the church. Now, if you look at the arch here, that's broken, of course. If you join it in your mind's eye, it would join about 1/3 higher than where it is today. And that's the internal height of the church, the inside of the church. So it gives you a sense of how grand and how tall this structure would have been. Now, the tower sat over these pillars of stone. That would have been twice as high as the church tower of St John's. So if you just have a quick look through the trees at the tower of St John's, I think twice as high for our tower over here. Now let's head up into the choir, and then we can talk a little bit more about Arthur and Guinevere.
Bakit? Makinig kayo, hindi kayo nakikinig. Una.
Monks buried here. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a minute.
So are there any bodies around here?
I'll tell you the story in a minute. So if you remember, I mentioned that it took about 130, 140 years to build the church. So even while they were still building the church, this part of the church was finished, brand new, and they immediately placed here a special tomb for Arthur and Guinevere. And we know, luckily, from eyewitness accounts at the time, that it was a black polished marble sarcophagus, and it sat on 4 white marble lions. It had a cross at the head and a carving of Arthur at the foot. So very grand. And of course, this is where the monks gathered to chant their offices, their mass, 8 times during each 24-hour period. And the whole point of placing Arthur and Guinevere here is that so they will be present for every mass ever sung again at Glastonbury Abbey. Now the King and Queen at this time in history were King Edward I and his Queen Eleanor of Castile. And Eleanor came from what's now modern Spain. Now the two of them came here because they loved the Arthurian legends, and they joined the monks on the Easter of 1278. and they were here for 5 days. And during that time they took part in a grand ceremony where the bones of Arthur and Guinevere were placed into this brand new tomb. Many thousands of visitors came here for that grand occasion. It would have been one of the largest gatherings that ever took place at Glastonbury Abbey. And we know that King Edward I placed a casket with the bones of Arthur into the tomb, and Queen Eleanor of Castile placed the casket with the bones of Guinevere into the tomb. There they stayed right up until the abbey closed some 250 years later. So the abbey closed in the year 1539, and it closed because of a great change in religion that happened in England at that time. The king, King Henry VIII, he rejected the Catholic faith and the authority of the Pope in Rome and set up a new church, which was called the Church of England. And so what happened was that over the next few years, the king had all of the monasteries closed down, and he took their money and he took their land. And so that's what happened here. And sadly, when the abbey closed, the tomb disappeared. So we don't know if it was just taken away or if it was broken up. We just don't know, but the tomb and the bones disappear. So now it's just a mystery to us what happened. Okay? So what we'll do next is we're going to head over towards the domestic part of the abbey where the monks lived and worked. I'll tell you a little bit about the monks and how they lived here, and then we'll head down towards the kitchen, and we will take you into an original building. Okay? Well, this